Now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to hear him. And the Pharisees and the scribes grumbled, saying, "This man receives sinners, and he eats with them." So he told them this parable. "What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he has lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and his neighbors, saying to them, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost.' Just so I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over this one sinner who repents than over the 99 righteous persons who need no repentance." As chapter 15 begins, we readers of Luke's gospel are being confronted with the contrast of the human heart and the heart of God. Yes, it's the Pharisees and scribes again. But the reality is that Jesus wants us to understand that he is also warning us, to be wary of the selfishness and hardness of our own hearts. Jesus uses 3 illustrations to make his point. Verses 4 and 7, which I just read, are the parable of the lost sheep. Note that the shepherd is confronted with a 1% loss in his flock. Verses 8 through 10 shift to the parable of the lost coin. Now the loss has grown to 10%. Finally, Jesus shares the parable of the lost son. And the loss has now ballooned to 50%. How large does the loss need to become for you and I to become aware of danger? How large, from the perspective of the sheep who has lost his way, the danger is 100%. And Jesus will do whatever it takes to restore the one lost lamb to the flock. This is the Nelsons' ministry. They searched for the marginalized and often homeless children right here in the Grand Valley. Many of them don't know who Jesus is. Lewis and Carrie help kids realize that they are loved, valued, and created for purpose. Since 2009, they have invited over 1,700 children free of charge to Camp Hope on the Grand Mesa, where the good news is shared and lives may be changed forever. The missions committee, with the blessing of the elder board, is excited this morning to introduce to you Lewis and Carrie Nelson.
Wow, that was pretty good. Any questions?
Yes.
Wow, thank you so much.
Am I starting? So yeah, thank you. He has me in tears. So I'm going to start with introducing you to one of our campers. He came to camp probably 12 years ago, and his home life was hard. He has a younger brother that is in a wheelchair permanently, doesn't communicate verbally, but with sounds, and takes all of his mother's attention. And then he grew up with an alcoholic father. And through his hurt and his disappointment and his just life situations, he acted out at school. I know, that's a shocker, right? He was a stinker butt. He got suspended, he got kicked off the school bus, all the things. So he comes to camp, and he experiences love, unconditional love. He experiences his kingdom buddy. You would liken it to a counselor at another summer camp, but we call our staff kingdom buddies. He had major anger issues. When he got angry, he stuttered, and that made him more angry. But through the 6 days that he had at camp, he came to know Christ, and he experienced his love. And, whoo, the 99, the 1, that really got me. The last day at camp, he ended up on the kitchen floor crying and asking us, "Don't send me home. Let me stay." Every year, once the kids come to camp through the first camp, the Valley to Mountaintop camp, they're invited back to the alumni camp. So he came to the boys' alumni camp for years. But then when he graduated high school, he had to get a job. So that's what he did. He went and got a job. And every year that we would put the notification out that Camp Hope is starting, his reply would always be, "Best thing that ever happened to me." So we still hear from him, and he's still walking with the Lord, and he's just such a story of redemption. Oh, we both have one.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, that's
That's
not good.
dangerous that we both have a mic.
Sorry.
So yeah, thank you so much for inviting us. Here, we're gonna use one. Too much feedback. Louis and Carrie Nelson, 2009, we had been praying for a place to bring kids in broken families, and God answered by giving us the camp for free. So since 2009, we've been inviting kids up to camp and helping them realize that they are loved, valued, and created for purpose. And so the story that Carrie just told isn't unique. I mean, we see this really every single year. With our smaller actual camp sizes, we go a one-on-one from kingdom buddy to camper. So every kid gets their own buddy to hang out with all summer. And it's through that we really see these relationships being built and God penetrating their hearts.
So imagine yourselves at 8, 9, 10 years old, and imagine living in a home that might not have electricity or heat or water. It might be bug infested. Imagine having to initiate into peer groups that require you to do things not only against God's law, but our government, our worldly law, our town, just our neighborhoods. And then imagine being that little kiddo and meeting 30 people that are so interested in you, not your circumstances, not what you've done, not what other people have called you or even what you've called yourself, but they're interested in who God created you to be. And then imagine yourself getting on a bus with these people who smile and love and pray and give attention to you. And then imagine getting off that bus at summer camp with a lodge and a playing field and an in-ground swimming pool that's heated, all the food you can eat, an ear to listen to you at a moment's notice, space to let your hurts out, meaning sometimes we'll experience some bad behavior, but we don't give that too much attention. We let the Lord work that out with them, and then we really encourage the good behavior. Imagine finding your best friends because, like and like Pastor talked about this morning, the fellowship of believers, like that is a real, true, holy thing. And these kids experience that at camp. So imagine experiencing that for the first time and not knowing anything about it. Imagine being able to have seconds and thirds at every meal when you haven't experienced 2 or 3 different food groups at one meal, or maybe not even a hot meal. Imagine being encouraged in who you are and who you were created to be, even if you're not behaving that way. Imagine coming to know your Savior when you had no idea you even needed a Savior or had a Savior. And then imagine being able to go home and taking or knowing, oh, why did you talk about the 99 and the 1? Imagine being able to go home and taking your Savior with you, knowing that he's with you, knowing that you can go to school and you can trust him to guide you through good behavior, through friendships, through seeking him, through reading his word, through finding good and holy and pleasing things for God. It's a good thing. I don't even know how to end that. Just end that. Just imagine that, because that's what our kids experience. They don't know the Lord, most of them. Even some of them that say that they do. Some of them do attend churches, but they haven't met Jesus. And when they come to camp, every single one of them gets the opportunity to meet him.
She brought you some Kleenex.
Oh my gosh, who is she? I love her. Thank you. I wasn't expecting that.
So I want to talk, so Camp Hope, we are located on the Grand Mesa, and it's the old Kiwanis camp. And so in 2009, when they turned that over to us, Camp Hope was really born. And it was a conversation we had with the principal at Nisley School. We said, would you handpick some kids for us that we can take to camp? So she handpicked 13 kids originally. And so it was from that experience that God showed us what he was doing and what he wanted us to do. And so 1,700 kids later that we've been able to bring to camp, God has really showed us his purpose. And he had told us years and years and years ago that, the reason we do this is to help kids realize they're loved, valued, and created for purpose. And since 2020, we've really kind of seen this shift in the kids. And then just recently, with Charlie Kirk's assassination, we've really seen this youth movement starting to rise. And so we want to be prepared for that, but we also see these 1,700 kids that have come to camp, they're going to grow up. And there are over 20,000 kids in our school district. And so there's a lot of kids. And we want to be able to make sure that we are ready and able to show the love of Christ to as many of these kids as we possibly can. Like Carrie had kind of alluded to, the majority of the kids that we get are either at risk or potentially at risk. And that actually covers 100% of the kids. So you've got your true at-risk kids, but the potentially at-risk kids are any kid. Because in today's society, it's one catastrophe that could turn them in the wrong direction. And we just want to be able to have a place that those kids can come and just be loved where they are. So a little bit more kind of our community. I've thoughts on the school district website and the county website and some state data. But so 20,000 kids in our school district, K through 12. 754 kids from 420 families are dealing with housing instability. And so it's not just homelessness, but it's people that are bouncing around couch to couch, car to car, trying to live. We do see a lot of these kids at camp. We do meet a lot of these families because they are coming because they've heard from somebody. And it's, how can you help us? And so God gives us the ability to take those kids to camp, give them a break, and then throughout the year, we hear from a lot of these families and give them support in some way by leading them to a place that can give them a place to stay or give them food or, whatever they need. 31% of these kids qualify for free lunch or free meals. They're Title I school. There's 17 out of 23 Title I schools. If you're a teacher, you might know if that number is accurate or not. But these are kids that qualify for free lunch. Carrie was talking about the food. We do have a lot of kids who are being raised by their grandparents, who are on fixed incomes, who don't have extra food. And so that's why when they're at camp and we're doing different events, there always is probably 3 times the amount of food that they can eat. Because we want them to know that God gives in abundance. He's an abundant God. And then we Ziploc all the food and send it home with them. 11% live below the poverty line. And last year, there was over 700 domestic violence cases in Mesa County. And that's where we really see the biggest impact with the kids that we take to camp. There's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of addiction. There's a lot of neglect. Our county has one of the highest suicide rates in the state and the nation. And these kids, they have to deal with that. And in some of the stories that Carrie will tell, the majority of the things we hear from the abused kids that come to camp is, if you don't talk about it, it'll go away. And that's couldn't be farther from the truth. These kids at 10 years old who've been abused are angry. And they just don't have any way to let that out other than being violent and fighting. So it's amazing at camp, they come up and we let them knock down trees and throw rocks at trees, and they get some of that anger out, but it's through the fact that they didn't get in trouble and they've got somebody to talk to, that they see that they have a God that loves them. There's people that actually love them. And it's through that God penetrates their heart.
So, introducing you to a few more campers. I think it's important to note that the 3 kiddos that I'm going to tell you about, they came to camp for the first time 10, 12 years ago. So the relationships that we build with the kids, they're not fleeting. We continue to pursue them throughout the year. We continue to meet with them and pray with them and disciple them throughout the year. They don't come to camp one time and that's it. Most of them. Our heart is that they don't. Of course, they move away and some don't come back, but for the most part. So a young lady, this was in 2020, so this was the COVID year. She joined a Bible study that we had at our home, and honestly, I didn't remember her. And back then, not so much anymore, back then I could remember everything, like the socks I wore that day, but I did not remember her, which at that time told me she had no behavior issues, because I'm the stinker butt person. I'm the one that supports the staff that is hanging out with the kiddos that might have behavioral issues. So it just told me that this kid's good. She's got it going on. And her mom, when she messaged me and said that she'd like to send her daughter to the Bible study, she said, "Oh, we go to church and she's a Christian and everything's great. So, perfect. Come join our Bible study." Well, come to find out, Mom was an addict, and she also had schizophrenia, and she was on medication. And when just out of nowhere, she would decide to not take her medication. And when she didn't, she took it out on her daughter. And so her daughter chose different, I just can't think of the word.
Beliefs?
No, identities. And it started with, if you're familiar with being a furry. So she started coming to Bible study with different attire. She had kitty ears, she had whiskers. At one point, she stopped talking, and she had a mask that she had taped to a popsicle stick, and she literally put the mask in front of her face, and she would not say a word. Well, a long story short, her mom kicked her out of the house, and she, the camper, the young girl, ended up being adopted by her brother, and she contacted us, and throughout all those years, she was coming to camp. There would be a year here, a year there that she didn't, and that would be because she ran away, or DHS took her. So now she's calling us and she wants to come to camp. So she comes to the girls' camp, and we were in a worship service, and I hadn't connected with her a lot that camp yet, and so I sat with her. And she said, "Miss Carrie, I just said, 'How are you doing? It's really good to have you here.' And she said, 'Miss Carrie, I would like to be baptized.' And I said, 'Okay, well, you tell me about that.' And she shared the gospel with me. She told me why she wanted to be baptized. She is now walking with the Lord. She attends a church. She attends a mentorship with one of our staff members. And she's constantly reaching out for encouragement through God's word. A young man came to camp about the same time, and single mom, and he was doing really well. He had ADHD, like the hyperness. But he was a great kid. I mean, he was fun, he was darling. And he got right with the program. Like right away, he was like, "Tell me more. Jesus is Lord. Read me the scriptures. Let's do a Bible study." Now, he did all that jumping up and down, right? Like he never sat still. but he still did it. He still was inquiring about the Lord. So he ended up mentoring with a staff member, and that went on for, 5, 6, 7 years. He even taught Sunday school at the church that they were going to. Well, guess what? He fell away. Somewhere in there, the world got a hold of him, and he fell away. And he had about 1.5 years of just making bad decisions. Not going to church, not doing Sunday school, not reading his word, nothing. And then he reached out to us this year. Louis actually got a hold of him. Hey, come to boys camp. No, can't do it. I'm too busy. Da 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 da. Well, after the summer, he got a hold of Louis and asked, how can I be a kingdom buddy? Well, that is the best thing that somebody can ask us, because it ain't easy. You're going to go to church. You're going to be in a youth group. You're going to meet with one of us once a week. You're going to teach us the scriptures. We hold them to an expectation. And that's the process that he is in right now. Another young lady came to camp, I think it was before these two. And poverty, addiction, shame. But her and her sister kept coming back. And then they didn't. But we got a message from her, and she asked, how can I be a kingdom buddy? So we met with her and shared exactly what we shared with the little boy or the young man, and she did it. And she is a kingdom buddy now. She's also a manager at one of the restaurants in town. She's also at CMU. She lives in an apartment with a roommate. She takes people to church. She shares scriptures with other people. Generations, we see God work through the ministry of Camp Hope through their families. The first camp they come to, it's 6 days. So we have, I'm not going to get into the logistics of each camp, but through that camp, we have 8 times to interact with the families. And it's not like this, it's one-on-one, okay? Because each kingdom buddy can interact with their camper's family. So this mom her husband had just got out of prison, and her 3 sons and daughter all came to camp. And I saw her standing at the park where we picked the kids up. I saw her standing there watching the kids. So I walked up and asked her, which one is yours? And she said, she pointed at her daughter, and then she said, what kind of camp is this? I'm like, oh no, that's not what we want to be asked that early in on the game. So I said, well, why do you ask? And she said, because my daughter is really struggling. And she just started naming it. And it is everything you can think of she was struggling with. And so I told her that I affirmed her that she would be in good hands. I grabbed another staff member and we prayed with her. We asked her if we could pray first. We prayed with her. At the end of camp, we do a celebration picnic. We invite the families up. The kids have an opportunity to be baptized. We will try to talk them out of that first. We're not pushing baptism, but we offer it because it is a commandment from the Lord, and we want to give them that opportunity. So she knew that her kids were getting an opportunity to be baptized. Well, her husband would not agree to it, which is fine. We understand that and accept that. But she asked if we would baptize her. And so we were able to sit down with her, have her share the gospel with us. We will not baptize anybody that doesn't know Jesus, that hasn't surrendered to them. And she was able to do that, and she is walking with the Lord. It's a little rough, but all of our walks are rough. So, yeah.
So that's just a little bit about some of the stories that we've had with these kids. And sadly, the majority of them are the same story. Coming from loss, coming from hurt, coming from pain, coming from you know, things that God does not want us to have. And we've seen these redemptions, we've seen these salvations, we've seen these amazing heart changes that God does at camp. But like I said before, since 2020, there's really been a shift. And that is causing us to kind of take a look at what we're doing as the founders and directors at camp. So in 2020, we joined a missionary organization called In Faith. And so they only deal with domestic missionaries in the United States. And so it's been through that they've really kind of helped us tune into what God is calling us to do. And so as we see this youth movement coming up, we really think that raising this younger generation up and discipling and mentoring them to get them to pour back into the kids in our community is going to help these 20,000 kids grow up with a sense of self, grow up with a sense of who God is, instead of just kind of floundering out there watching the news going, what are we doing? So
I don't want to cut him off. I think you can see why our missions committee was really inspired by them. Their enthusiasm is infectious, certainly. But I did want you to have an opportunity to respond to a few questions. If people that are here have any questions, that we can have them present the questions.
Louis, can you share a little bit of the history of who In Faith is? Because there's a connection.
Yeah, the connection to here. You want me to do it?
have you studied it? So,
Yeah, let them do it.
oh, you do it.
Okay. Actually, In Faith is, as he's mentioned, it's a mostly domestic mission, and it actually has a connection with our church right here. It had two previous names. Originally, 100 years ago, is the American Sunday School Union. Does that sound familiar to anyone? That was the origin of this church. It started out as a Sunday school mission up here on the Redlands. Well, they changed the name to American Missionary Fellowship, I believe, was the second name. And that's when we first knew the mission years ago. We were in Idaho, and it still had that name. And then, like many of the missions, it had another name. And so now it's called In Faith. But it's been true to the mission that it started out with when Redlands. It was reaching out to communities, and it's doing that today. So anyway, that's a little bit of the background.
Thank you, Doug.
Paul.
How long is your camping season, and how many people help you out during that season?
So we run in June and July up on the mesa. So that's when the kids aren't in school. That's the best time. Most of our kids aren't going anywhere anyway, and so the way we do it, they think they're at camp all summer. And what was the second question?
How many people are helping you out with the camping?
So right now we average probably 40 to 50 volunteers a summer that we get, and that includes kitchen staff. I'm looking for bus drivers, nurses, and then just support staff, kingdom buddies, things like that. And we have them age 16 up. I think our oldest one was 80, 82, somewhere right around there. It doesn't matter who you are. These kids will instantly fall in love with you because you're sitting there listening to them. And so I can't wait till, I can't run across the field anymore, because then I just get to sit in the chair and the kids will just come to you. So if you're interested in that, we'll take you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'm curious, heard about Camp Hope on the news a bunch recently, I think. Or it might have been a different camp, but I thought it was Camp Hope.
Has anybody else heard about us on the news? I'm not familiar with that. I hope it's all good.
I just want to know, how do we connect the kids? Because I work with these kids. How do I connect them to you?
Yeah, so we've got some information, but come talk to us. Yeah, afterwards. We'll be here for the second service too. Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, I'm just kind of curious about sort of the mechanics, more specifics, and maybe that paper says how you actually connect with the kids. You mentioned the principal at Nicely or something. So that's one. How long is the camp period? How many kids at one time? And how you get them there?
Okay.
Age groups. I mean, is it all mixed ages at one time? Or
Yeah. Great question. So she asked about the flow of just how camp happens. So 2009, Carrie and I went door to door. We went to the trailer courts. We went to the apartment buildings. We went to what we wanted to consider the harder hit areas of Grand Junction. And we knocked on doors and said, we run a free kids camp. Do you want to send your kids to camp? And they would throw those kids out the door and say, take them. The camp, the Valley to Mountaintop camp, ages 8 to 13, they get 6 days at camp, and it's over a 2-week period. We do 3 day camps, and then a Thursday, Friday, Saturday overnight. We want to know who they are. We want to connect with their parents. We want to know their family. And when, they don't even know how to walk into a church. They don't know what a church is. So by us doing what we do, we're building these relationships with these families. And now we're seeing second generation, the older brothers and sisters and the younger brothers. We are like 1 year away from having our first grand camper. So we're super excited about just that generational, they're bringing their kids up through camp to learn who Jesus is. We keep our camps small. We're not about numbers. We're about the kids. So about 25 is our biggest camp that we would do, because we've got close to 25 volunteers that are walking with each of these kids. And then we do after they come their first year, we do a boys and a girls alumni camp. So we separate them, which is smart. And we really focus in. So really what we've seen, the heart of the girls camp really is about identity. Because girls growing up in today's world it's so difficult about what they're just bombarded with. Of who they are, who they should be, what they should look like, and letting them know that they have a God who loves them and has created them to be who they are. Boys, it really is, we let them jump out of trees, blow things up, shoot things, and just be boys. So many of our boys are living in such a stifled world that they can't be who God created them to be, or they've never been able to experience that. So we run them, and we run them hard. And then once they're tired, you just see them connect with God. You see God connect with them. And having godly men at camp really makes the difference. So that's another ask is, I need godly men at camp. I need guys that are just willing to sit down with a young man and just say, you're worth it.
All right, give it to me. Any more questions? Okay, before you ask your question, I want to add to the answer to the last question. I'm going to guess that you heard of another camp that we always get confused with is Camp Good Grief. Does that ring a bell? Yeah, that's probably what you heard. So what's your next question?
So you mean like you should
Yes.
We got paintball guns, we got Orby guns, we got BB guns. Yeah. We throw knives, throw axes.
No, you don't get to hold it.
Oh.
Just get the top. Okay, any other questions?
Can I go to that camp?
Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
Do you get I'm sorry. Do you get a lot of pushback from the school district? Because I have to be really careful what I say to who.
Well, one time we did. We don't get pushback from the school district because we don't go through the school district. Now that, we've been running for 17 years, it's word of mouth mostly. So we aren't so much in the neighborhoods and we don't rely so much on teachers. We get referrals from them, but we're not that connected with them. Any other? Yeah.
You just talked about the difference between Camp Good Grief and Camp Hope. Can you finish that?
Yes, Camp Good Grief is a camp that takes kids to camp that have experienced a loss of a loved one, which we also have those kids, but that's what they mainly work with.
That's the same facility.
No, but I don't know why those two names, but we actually get receipts from people that we do business with in town, and they will write Camp Good Grief on. And we're like, we are Camp Hope. So I don't know what the connection is, but.
They're at Cedar Edge. Camp Good Grief is.
So you said you have small sizes. Are you having to limit how many kids come? Are you
Yes.
more than enough?
We have to limit it because we will not herd them through. We're going to know everybody's name. We're going to know their story. We're going to know how we can minister to them. And what Louis had alluded to a little bit was just where the Lord is taking us in the ministry is we will be raising up other teams so that it's not just Louis and I leading teams. We'll have other teams so that we can bring up more kids. So the expansion is definitely in the future. Okay, one more story. All right, it's going to be quick, I promise, Pastor. One of our very first campers, I think she came our third year. She came out of Clifton. Her family was in a cult. They didn't know Jesus. They came to camp because it was free. It gave their kids something to do. They lived in, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but back then it was called 8 Ball Alley. If you know anything about drugs, 8 Ball is a reference to drugs, so drug alley. So they sent their kids to camp because it was free and they could get out of 8 Ball Alley. She came to camp. Every kiddo that comes to camp gets a Bible. In her Bible, she wrote a prayer to her home or to God, which she had never done before, about her homosexual aunt. 4 years ago, she got a hold of us, and she continued to come to camp. She continued to come to girls' camp. 4 years ago, she got a hold of us and asked if she could be staff. So, of course, like all the kids, we, told them how that had to happen, and she went through all of that. And come to find out, her whole family, well, not her whole family, that's an exaggeration, but it's a big family. It's a big Hispanic family. They all surrendered their lives to the Lord because of her sharing the gospel with them. And her aunt also came to camp as staff, not a homosexual, loving God, loving Jesus, serving him. And the young lady, the camper, is in youth ministry and serves as a leader. So there's just so much hope in it. There's so much grace. There's some really hard stories. They're really hard. Like that one out of the 99, like that is really hard because we see that a lot. But we also get to see God's goodness. And when we hear stories like the ones that we shared with you today, or when we see those stories, it's really amazing. So thank you.
So yes, thank you guys. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Pastor Jeff. Thank you, everybody, for inviting. We're going to be back here. We do have handout things. If you guys have any questions or want to drive the bus, Or just, perfect. Or just, want to find out more about how you can help support, give, pray, whatever it is, we'll be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we really appreciate all of you having a chance to come and hear them. We've talked about it, as I said earlier. Bill said we've been talking to them over probably 6 months now, and we have an opportunity with our budget to you probably know that the Carlsons no longer working. They've retired, and so we're going to have a reduction in our missionaries that are being supported. So it's like the Lord was preparing us to have someone else fill that part of our budget. So you'll have an opportunity. We'll be talking some more and presenting it at the budget meeting in December. So between now and then, if you have any other questions, contact myself, or I can refer the questions on to the Nelsons. So thank you. And he did have to ring the bell on us. You're dismissed.
There was really a bell?
Yeah, you ring 15.
Oh,
The
that's
next
cool.
service starts. Yep, and our Sundays.
We're just going to pull this back. The table back there and that way. You guys, here, this is your coffee. Okay.
No, that's mine.
Oh, that's yours? No, yours was black, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the mixed.
Okay.
This one up here.
Oh, okay.
I can see the little kids.
What do you drive?
Well, right now we've got a big.